Welcome to another story with K Whisper. Grab your popcorn, relax, and let's step into this unforgettable story. The bells of St. Andrew's Cathedral sang across the Lagos sky, their chimes echoing down bustling streets alive with horns, vendors, and neighbors craning for a glimpse of the bride. Inside, the air was thick with perfume, sweat, and anticipation. Cynthia's gown shimmered like ivory flame beneath the stained glass windows. Each step down the aisle felt both light and heavy, light with the dreams she was supposed to carry, heavy with the doubts she tried to bury. Her groom, Emeka, stood at the altar in a crisp navy suit. His smile was steady, reassuring, the kind that made her family proud. He was the safe choice, the good man, the Nigerian man who would give her stability. But Cynthia's heart did not beat with certainty. Instead, it thudded with unease, as though her spirit sensed a storm on the horizon. Her father's grip on her hand tightened. His proud smile was wide, too wide, and his eyes shone with something she could not name. Pride? Greed? Relief? She couldn't tell. She only knew it unsettled her. The organ swelled. She reached the altar. Emeka reached for her hand. And then, the cathedral doors slammed open. A gust of hot Lagos air swept in with the heavy boots of men dressed head to toe in black. Gasps rang out. Mothers screamed. Ushers tried to block them, but one cold glance from the man leading the pack sent them stumbling aside. He was tall, striking, dressed in a black suit sharper than any blade. His dark hair slicked back, his jaw set in stone, his eyes hidden behind tinted glasses. When he spoke, the church seemed to bow to his voice. Cynthia Obinna. Her blood froze. He spoke her name like a claim, like it already belonged to him. Who dares interrupt my daughter's wedding? Her father barked, puffing his chest though his hands trembled. The stranger's lips curved in the faintest smile. His accent was foreign, clipped, deliberate. Korean. I am Jihoon. And today, I've come to collect what is mine. Confusion rippled through the church. Emeka stepped forward, outrage flashing across his face. This is madness. You can't just storm into a sacred. A single gesture from Jihoon's hand silenced him. His men surged forward, shoving Emeka back, forcing him to his knees. Cynthia's bouquet slipped from her fingers, petals scattering across the carpet like fallen promises. Mine, she whispered, her voice trembling. What are you talking about? Jihoon removed his glasses, his gaze sharp and cold as steel. Your father knows. All eyes turned to her father. His proud mask cracked, revealing the shadow beneath. He swallowed hard, his jaw clenched, but he did not speak. Papa. Cynthia's voice broke. What is he saying? Jihoon stepped closer, his presence swallowing the space between them. Years ago, your father sought power. A seat at the table. He came to us, to my family and soul. And to seal his place, he offered something priceless. He paused, his eyes locking on hers. You. The church gasped as if the very walls had inhaled. Cynthia's knees buckled. She turned to her father, desperate, pleading. Tell me it's not true. Her father's silence screamed louder than any denial. The betrayal struck harder than any bullet. Papa. Cynthia choked, tears spilling hot and fast. How could you? On my wedding day? To Emeka? To me? Her father's eyes flickered, wet with shame, but his mouth stayed shut. His ambition chained his tongue. Emeka fought against the men restraining him, his voice raw. You can't take her. She's not some property. Jihoon barely glanced at him. She is collateral, and debts must be paid. Two of Jihoon's men seized Cynthia by the arms. She thrashed, screamed, her veil tearing like fragile wings. Let me go. You're lying. This is madness. Cynthia, her mother cried, collapsing against the pew as others tried to hold her back. Jihoon's calm footsteps carried him to the altar. He stopped inches from her, close enough for her to feel the ice in his aura. Your father's signature sealed it, he said low, so only she could hear. You were promised. And I always collect what is promised. Cynthia's fury burned through her fear. I don't belong to you. I never will. His gaze darkened, though his tone stayed maddeningly even. Fight all you want. Hate me all you want. But you will come with me. He nodded once. The men dragged her toward the doors. Her mother's screams echoed. Emika's curses filled the air. Her father's silence hung like a noose. Outside, a sleek black car waited, the Lagos sun glinting off its tinted glass. Cynthia was shoved inside, her gown bunching, her body trembling with rage. Jihoon slid in after her, composed, as though he hadn't just torn a family apart. The doors slammed shut. The noise of the church faded, replaced by the steady hum of the engine. Cynthia pressed herself against the far corner of the seat, glaring at him with wild, tear-streaked eyes. "You're a monster." Jihoon leaned back, unbuttoning his jacket with casual precision. His gaze pinned her where she Saturday. "No, Cynthia. I am a man of deals. And your father made one." Her heart hammered against her chest, torn between grief and fury. She had been betrayed not only by a stranger in black, but by the man who raised her. As the car pulled away, the bells of the cathedral kept ringing, cruel reminders of the vows she was never meant to make. Instead, she was bound to a vow she never chose, sealed not with love, but with blood and betrayal. The car ride was a blur of rage and disbelief. Cynthia pressed herself against the far door, her wedding gown crumpled like a cage of lace around her. Jihoon sat across from her, perfectly composed, his gaze occasionally drifting to her, but never wavering. He was a man who didn't need to raise his voice to command a room. His silence was louder than thunder. When the car finally slowed, Cynthia realized they had left the crowded streets of Lagos behind. They pulled up to a towering estate surrounded by iron gates and armed men. The mansion was a fortress, cold and imposing, its marble walls glowing beneath the dim light of dusk. The doors opened. Jihoon stepped out first. 2 guards pulled Cynthia from the car. Her heels scraped against the stone steps as she fought them, her gown tearing further. "Let me go." "You can't keep me here," she screamed, her voice raw with fury. Jihoon paused at the top of the stairs and turned slightly, his sharp gaze cutting into her. "Bring her inside." The men dragged her through massive double doors into a grand hall. Crystal chandeliers glistened above, but there was no warmth in their light. The air smelled of leather, smoke, and power. They shoved her into a room with tall windows, velvet drapes, and a fireplace flickering low. The guards released her and left, shutting the heavy doors behind them. Cynthia spun around, glaring at Jihoon, who now stood at the center of the room, removing his jacket with calculated calm. "You think you can just kidnap me and pretend I'll obey?" Her voice shook with anger. "I'm not your property." Jihoon's eyes flicked to hers, steady, unyielding. He set his jacket neatly over the back of a chair. "Property." He tilted his head. "No." "Collateral." Her stomach twisted. The word stabbed deeper than a knife. "Collateral? I am a human being, not a contract." He stepped closer, his presence suffocating, his shadow stretching across her torn gown. "Your father disagreed." Cynthia's throat closed. "Don't you dare put this on him. You made the choice to come and ruin my life." A faint smirk tugged at the corner of Jihoon's lips. "I didn't make the choice. He did, when he signed his name beneath mine." He pulled a folded document from his inner pocket and held it up, just far enough for her to see the seal, the signature she knew too well. Her father's. Her knees threatened to buckle. The proof glared back at her, undeniable. "I don't care what's on that paper," she snapped, blinking back tears. "I will never accept this." Jihoon slipped the document back into his pocket. "Acceptance is not required. Only presence." Her heart pounded like a drum. She clenched her fists, stepping closer, her voice breaking. "You've destroyed everything. My wedding, my family, my life. For what? Power?" His gaze darkened. "Power is never free. Your father understood this. He wanted influence in Seoul. He wanted to be more than just another man in Lagos politics. He offered you. I agreed." Cynthia's stomach turned. Betrayal roared in her ears. Her own father had traded her dreams for status. Jihoon's tone softened, though his words remained cruel. Do not waste your hatred on me, Cynthia. Hate the man who gave you away.
Her chest heaved.
She wanted to slap him, to scream until her throat tore. But deep down, the words landed like stones. She sank into a chair, her gown spilling around her like a broken crown. Her hands shook as she whispered, Why today? Why my wedding? Jihoon's jaw tightened. Because it is fitting. A vow for a vow. One life exchanged for another. You were about to promise yourself to a man who could not protect you. I came to claim what was already mine. His words sliced her open. You are sick. He didn't flinch. I am alive. That is all that matters in my world. Silence stretched between them, broken only by the crackle of the fireplace. Cynthia's tears blurred the golden flames into ghosts. Finally, she lifted her chin, meeting his gaze head-on. You may have dragged me here, Jihoon, but you will never have me. Not my heart. Not my will. Not ever. For the first time, something flickered in his eyes. Amusement? Admiration? He leaned down, close enough for her to feel the heat of his breath. Careful, yobo, he murmured, the Korean word for bride slipping from his lips like a claim. Defiance excites me. Her pulse raced with fury and fear, her body betraying her with a shiver she tried to suppress. Jihoon straightened, slipping his hands into his pockets. You'll be shown your room. You will remain here. You will not leave this house without me. His tone left no room for debate. The door opened, and a woman in a black dress stepped inside, her eyes downcast. Jihoon gestured. Take her. Cynthia rose, fire burning in her veins. She marched toward the door, glaring at him one last time. This isn't over. Jihoon's smirk returned, sharp as a blade. It's only just begun. The room they locked Cynthia in was lavish. Velvet curtains, a chandelier dripping crystals, a bed big enough for a queen. But to her it was nothing more than a golden cage. She paced, her torn gown trailing like a ghost. Every time she thought of her father's betrayal, her chest burned. He hadn't just sacrificed her future, he had handed her to a man she barely knew, a foreigner who treated people like pieces in a game. She wasn't going to sit quietly and accept it. The moment the house fell silent, Cynthia crept to the door. She pressed her ear against it. Nothing. Slowly, she turned the handle. To her surprise, it clicked open. Her heart raced. Foolish man. He thinks I'll stay put because he told me to? Barefoot, she slipped into the corridor. The mansion was a labyrinth of dark wood and marble floors. Armed guards patrolled, their boots echoing faintly, but Cynthia kept to the shadows. She moved quickly, her heart pounding against her ribs. Finally, she reached a side door. She pushed it open and tasted the night air. Freedom. She ran. Down the steps, across the gravel, toward the distant iron gates. The gown tangled around her legs, but she yanked the fabric up, desperate. Beyond the gate, Lagos stretched out, alive with noise and light. If she could reach the street, someone would help her. Stop. The shout cracked through the night. A guard spotted her. He sprinted, closing the distance. No, she screamed, running harder. But he was faster. His hand clamped around her arm just as her fingers grazed the iron bars. Let me go, she cried, thrashing. Suddenly, the guard froze. His grip loosened. Cynthia twisted around and saw Jihoon standing in the courtyard, his silhouette sharp against the lights of the mansion. He hadn't raised his voice, hadn't moved quickly, but the guard's fear was immediate, palpable. Jihoon strode forward, his coat billowing behind him. His eyes locked on Cynthia, unreadable, cold and burning at the same time. The guard bowed his head, releasing her at once. Boss, sigh. Jihoon cut him off with a single glance. The man stumbled back, paling, before retreating into the shadows. Cynthia's chest heaved. Her freedom slipped through her fingers like sand. You really thought you could run? Jihoon asked softly, almost like he was amused. Her rage flared. What did you expect? To lock me up and watch me break? I will never belong to you. He stepped closer, his voice lowering. You think this is about belonging? He gestured to the mansion around them. This is survival. Your father tied you to me. If you leave, enemies will come. They will kill you just to send me a message. You are safer here. She shook her head, tears stinging. Safe? In a prison. He studied her, his jaw tense. Then, without warning, he grabbed her wrist, not harsh but firm. He dragged her across the courtyard and through another door, down a set of stairs. The air grew colder, heavier. They entered a dim room that reeked of smoke and metal. At a long table sat several men, scarred and sharp-eyed. Maps and cash littered the surface. Guns gleamed under the low light. Cynthia froze. This wasn't a home, it was a war room. Jihoon pushed her forward.
Look.
This is the world you've been thrown into. A world of power, blood, and betrayal. Do you think you can walk out into the streets untouched? One of the men sneered. Is this her? The bride? His eyes raked over Cynthia, and bile rose in her throat. Jihoon's gaze snapped to him, colder than steel. Careful. The man dropped his eyes immediately. Cynthia swallowed, her pulse racing. Jihoon was feared, obeyed without question. But that only made her hate him more. You think showing me this will make me afraid? She spat. It only makes me despise you more. For a moment, Jihoon said nothing. Then he stepped closer, his face inches from hers. His voice was low, dangerous. Despise me all you want, Cynthia. Hate keeps you alive. But never mistake me for weak. I protect what is mine. And now you are mine. Her breath hitched, fury and fear clashing in her chest. Before she could answer, one of the men burst into the room, breathless. Boss, we've got trouble at the East Gate. Rivals. They're armed. The room erupted into motion. Guns were grabbed, orders barked. Jihoon straightened, his authority sharp as a blade. He glanced back at Cynthia, his voice cool. Stay here. No, she whispered, but he was already gone, his men rushing after him. The door slammed shut, leaving her in the cold room alone. Her body trembled. For the first time, she understood the depth of the danger she was caught in. This wasn't just about a forced marriage. This was war. And she was at the center of it. Gunfire cracked in the distance, muffled by thick walls and heavy doors. Cynthia sat frozen at the edge of the war room, her gown rumpled, her hands shaking. Every shot reminded her of what Jihoon had said. This is survival. But survival for who? For him? For her? For the empire that had stolen her life? Minutes crawled like hours until the door slammed open. Two men dragged in a bloodied rival, throwing him to the ground. His face was bruised, his shirt torn. One of Jihoon's men pressed a gun to the captive's head. Jihoon strode in behind them, his suit smeared with dust, his expression unreadable. He barely looked winded, though his eyes burned hotter than flames. The captive spat blood onto the floor. You think you own this city, Jihoon? Lagos isn't Seoul. You'll die here. Jihoon crouched low, eye level with the man. His tone was calm, almost polite. Maybe, but not tonight. He gave a subtle nod. The gun went off. The rival slumped lifeless to the floor. Cynthia flinched, her scream caught in her throat. Jihoon rose, wiping a fleck of blood from his sleeve with casual precision. His eyes drifted to her. You see now, he asked, his voice carrying across the silent room. This is the world you've been forced into. If you step outside these walls, this will be your fate. Her breath shook. Her stomach churned. But her fire refused to die. You're no better than him, she spat, gesturing at the corpse. You think killing makes you powerful? All it makes you is a murderer. The men around the table stiffened, glancing nervously between her and Jihoon. No one dared speak to him like that. Jihoon's jaw tightened. He crossed the room slowly, his steps deliberate, until he stood inches from her. The air between them crackled, thick with heat and danger. Careful, he murmured. You're in my house, Cynthia. My world. And in my world, words have consequences. She glared up at him, her voice trembling but strong. Then kill me too. Because I will never bow to you. The silence that followed was suffocating. Even Jihoon's men held their breath. Jihoon's eyes narrowed, scanning her face. Then unexpectedly, he laughed. Low, sharp, humorless. You think death scares me? He leaned closer, his lips brushing the shell of her ear. It doesn't. But your defiance. He inhaled softly, like the scent of her fear and fury stirred something in him. That is far more dangerous. Cynthia's pulse thundered, betraying her. She shoved him back with trembling hands, her voice breaking. Stay away from me. Jihoon straightened, his smirk cutting like a knife. Fight all you want. It only makes you harder to forget. He turned to his men, snapping into command. Clean this up. Double the guards. No one enters or leaves without my order. As he left the room, Cynthia felt her knees weaken. She hated him. Hated the control, the arrogance, the way he looked at her like she was both a possession and a puzzle. And yet, beneath the hate, something unsettled her even more. For a brief moment, when his eyes met hers, she had seen something crack through the ice. Something human. But she didn't want human. She wanted freedom. And she would find it, even if it killed her. The mansion had gone quiet after the gunfire. But Cynthia couldn't rest. She sat on the edge of her bed, her fists clenched, her mind still replaying the brutal scene she had witnessed. Jihoon's cold efficiency, the way he gave the order, the way life slipped out of a man as though it meant nothing. And yet the way he had turned to her, eyes burning like she was the only thing in the room that mattered. She hated him. She hated herself more for remembering the way his breath had brushed her ear. The door creaked open. 2 guards stepped inside. The boss wants you, one muttered. Cynthia's stomach twisted. Tell him to rot. The guard's expression didn't change. We weren't asking. They grabbed her by the arms, dragging her through the halls. Her slippers scuffed the marble, her heart hammering. She prayed they were taking her to another interrogation, another attempt at intimidation. Anything but. They stopped before a tall door carved with black dragons. The guards pushed it open and shoved her inside. Jihoon's room. The space was vast, lined with dark wood and bookshelves, the city lights spilling through floor-to-ceiling windows. A massive bed dominated the center, its black silk sheets glinting under a low-hanging chandelier. Jihoon stood by the window, jacket off, shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows. He turned slowly, his gaze sweeping over her like fire meeting ice. Why am I here? She demanded, her voice sharp even though her knees felt weak. He studied her for a long moment, then spoke with calm finality. Because this is where you belong. Her blood boiled. In your bed? Never. He walked toward her, each step deliberate, measured. You think you have a choice, Cynthia? I've told you before, you are mine. I will never be yours, she spat, though her voice wavered. Jihoon stopped inches away, his presence suffocating, his scent of smoke and steel wrapping around her. His hand rose slowly, brushing a lock of hair from her face. Cynthia flinched, but he caught her chin, holding her there. Your father gave you to me like a coin, he said, his voice low, steady. But I don't want your obedience, Cynthia. I want your fight, your fire. Her chest heaved. Her heart betrayed her with a stuttered beat. Then you'll be waiting forever, because all I have for you is hate. His lips curled into the faintest smirk. Hate and desire are not so different. Before she could protest, his mouth was on hers. Cynthia froze, her fists pounding against his chest, her muffled scream lost between them. But Jihoon didn't relent. His kiss was fierce, claiming, dangerous. And to her horror, something inside her didn't recoil. Something deep, buried, traitorous, something she couldn't name, stirred. She tore herself away, gasping, her eyes blazing with fury. I hate you. Jihoon's gaze burned into her, unreadable. Good. Hate me. But you felt it, didn't you? No, she shouted, though her voice cracked, betraying her. Silence stretched, thick as smoke. Jihoon finally stepped back, his jaw tight. You'll sleep here tonight. With me. Her heart lurched. I'd rather sleep on the floor. Then the floor is yours, he said, unbothered, tossing a pillow and blanket to the ground. He stripped off his shirt with casual ease, his scarred torso catching the faint light. But you'll stay. I don't trust anyone else to keep you alive. Cynthia's pulse raced. She sank to the far side of the bed, clutching the blanket around her. She hated him, his arrogance, his dominance, his cruelty. But long after his steady breathing filled the room, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her lips still burning from a kiss she wanted to forget but couldn't. And in that torment, she realized the most terrifying truth of all. Hatred wasn't the only fire Jihoon had lit inside her. The storm broke just past midnight. Rain pounded against the windows, lightning tearing through the sky in jagged streaks. The mansion seemed to shudder beneath the thunder. Cynthia lay awake on the far side of Jihoon's room, the blanket pulled tight around her. She told herself she hated him, that every second in his presence was a prison. But the storm had a way of exposing truths she didn't want to face. Another thunderclap cracked. She startled. Across the room, Jihoon stood at the window, his broad frame lit by flashes of lightning. He hadn't slept. His hand rested against the glass, his jaw tense, his eyes distant. Cynthia's voice broke the silence. Why do you never sleep? He turned slightly, his gaze finding hers. Men like me don't sleep. We wait. For what? She whispered. For the next enemy. For the next betrayal. His words hit her like stones. She hugged the blanket tighter. For the first time, she wondered what it cost him to live this way. Always guarded, always hunted. The rain hammered harder. The thunder shook the walls. Cynthia flinched again, her body betraying her. Jihoon moved from the window, his steps slow, deliberate. He crouched beside her on the floor, his eyes softer than she had ever seen them. You're afraid of storms? No, she lied, though her trembling gave her away. He didn't press. Instead, he reached for the blanket, gently pulling it higher over her shoulders. His touch lingered, not harsh, not claiming, just steady. Something inside her cracked. Without thinking, she grabbed his wrist. Don't go. His eyes widened slightly, as though her words cut through his armor. He studied her, searching, then lowered himself beside her. For a long moment, they sat in silence, the storm raging outside. She could feel his warmth seeping into her, grounding her. I should hate you, she whispered, her voice trembling. For what you did. For what you took from me. Then hate me, Jihoon said quietly. Hate me all you need. But don't deny what's here. His hand brushed her cheek, and her breath caught. Lightning lit the room. His face hovered inches from hers, his eyes raw, unmasked. And then she leaned into him. The kiss was nothing like the one he had stolen before. This one was fire meeting rain, fury meeting surrender. Cynthia clung to him, her fingers gripping his shirt as though he were the only solid thing in a collapsing world. Jihoon pulled her closer, his arms encircling her, strong and protective. The storm outside faded against the storm inside her chest. When he laid her down on the bed, it wasn't with force but with reverence. His movements were steady, almost cautious, as though he were afraid she might shatter. And for the first time, Cynthia didn't resist. She let herself drown in him, in the heat of his touch, in the way he kissed her like she was both his possession and his salvation. It was overwhelming, terrifying, intoxicating. By the time the storm began to ease, Cynthia lay tangled in the sheets, her body pressed against Jihoon's. Her chest rose and fell in sync with his, their breaths mingling in the quiet. She stared at the ceiling, her heart heavy and light all at once. She still hated him. She still hated what he had taken from her life. But tonight, in the safety of his arms, she had felt something else. Something far more dangerous than hate. Love, whispering at the edges of her heart. The morning light spilled across the silk sheets. Cynthia stirred, her body sore, her mind restless. For a fleeting moment, she forgot where she was. Then she turned her head and saw Jihoon, his dark hair tousled, his breathing steady. The memories of the storm rushed back. The fire, the surrender, the way he had touched her like she was both fragile and fierce. Her heart clenched. She hated herself for it, but she couldn't deny it. She had wanted him. A sharp knock broke the silence. Jihoon's eyes snapped open instantly, alert. "What is it?" he called. The door opened. One of his guards stepped inside, bowing his head. "Boss, her father is here." Cynthia jolted upright. "My father?" Jihoon's gaze darkened.
No.
"Yes," she insisted, pushing off the bed. "I need to see him." "You don't." His voice was firm, unyielding. "I do." Her tone cracked, raw. "You've taken everything from me, Jihoon. You won't take this too. I will see him." For a long moment, their eyes locked, wills clashing. Finally, Jihoon exhaled sharply and rose, pulling on his shirt.
Fine.
"But I'm coming with you." They stepped out into the courtyard. The rain had stopped, but the ground was slick, the sky heavy with clouds. And there he was, her father, kneeling on the gravel, his hands scraped, his suit torn. The once proud man looked broken, desperate. "Cynthia," he cried, reaching for her. "My daughter." Cynthia's chest tightened. Jihoon stopped her with a hand on her arm. "Be careful. He's not the man you think." But she pulled free, running toward her father. "Papa." He clutched her hands, tears streaking his face. "I've come for you, my child. I've paid the debt. I can take you home." Cynthia's heart raced. You paid it?" "Yes." He turned, pleading with Jihoon. "I've given you everything you asked for. Let her go. She's my only child. Please." For the first time, Jihoon's expression softened. He studied them both, the girl who had defied him and the father who had betrayed her, and then gave a small nod. "She's yours." Cynthia's heart twisted as her father pulled her close, as though he had saved her. Saved her from Jihoon. But as Jihoon's men opened the gates, as she walked through them with her father, her steps felt heavy. Each one pulled her farther from Jihoon. From the storm. From the fire she couldn't explain. Home. The word should have brought comfort. But when Cynthia stepped back into the house she had grown up in, it felt hollow. The walls echoed with memories that no longer fit her. Her mother fussed over her, crying with relief. Her relatives whispered, praising her father's sacrifice. And then there he was, the man she had been meant to marry. He stood in the sitting room, waiting, his expression awkward but hopeful. "Cynthia," he said softly, "you're safe now. We can continue as planned." As planned. The words sliced her. She looked at him. The boy she had grown up with, the one she had been told she would love, the one her heart had been trained to obey. Once, she thought she had feelings for him. Once, she thought he was her future. Now, standing before him, she felt nothing. No spark. No fire. No storm. Just emptiness. When he reached for her hand, she pulled away. The touch irritated her, felt foreign, like the grip of a stranger. "Cynthia?" he asked, confused. Her eyes blurred with tears. "I can't," she whispered. He frowned. "Can't what?" "I can't marry you. Not now. Not ever." Gasps filled the room. Her father stiffened, anger flashing in his eyes. "Cynthia, do you know what you're saying? This man has been promised to you since you were a child." Her chest heaved, years of lies crashing down. "That's the problem. I never chose this. You chose it for me. You chose everything for me, even trading me like property." Her voice cracked, fury and heartbreak spilling out. "My life has been a lie." Her father stepped forward, his voice rising. "I did what I had to. For power, for family, for survival." "For yourself," Cynthia cut in, tears streaming down her face. "You never thought of me." The room went silent. Cynthia turned, her hands trembling, her heart heavy with a truth she could no longer deny. Her father had betrayed her. The man she thought she loved had become a stranger. And Jihoon had stolen her, broken her, consumed her. But he had also awakened her. He had made her feel alive in a way no one else ever had. And even though he was dangerous, even though he was everything she should have hated, her heart still beat for him. The house was quiet, But Cynthia's mind was louder than a storm. She sat by her window, staring out into the dark streets of Lagos. Days had passed since her return, yet nothing felt the same. The walls of her childhood home now pressed in on her like a prison. The familiar faces of family and friends now seemed foreign, distant. But it was when she closed her eyes that the truth haunted her most. She didn't see her fiancé's face. She didn't hear her father's pleading voice. She saw Jihoon. The storm. The fire. The way his eyes had burned when he touched her, as though she was both his greatest victory and his deepest wound. She pressed a hand to her chest, her heartbeat betraying her. She hated him. She wanted him. And that contradiction was tearing her apart. Her father knocked once before barging into her room. His eyes were tired, his face strained. "You're quiet," he said. "Too quiet." "I have nothing to say to you," she replied coldly. He sighed, sitting on the edge of her bed. "Cynthia, you don't understand. I did what I had to do. Those men, that life, it was bigger than you or me. I made choices for survival. You made choices for power," she snapped. "And you sold me like cattle." His eyes darkened, but he didn't deny it. Instead, he reached for her hand. "You're home now. That's what matters." Cynthia pulled her hand away, her voice trembling. "This doesn't feel like home anymore." That night, she wandered outside, barefoot on the wet grass. The sky was cloudy, the air heavy with the scent of rain. She tilted her head back, closing her eyes, letting the wind sting her cheeks. And then she heard it, the low growl of engines. Her heart stopped. She turned, her breath catching. At the end of the street, sleek black cars pulled up. The kind that didn't belong in her neighborhood. The kind she knew too well. Her pulse raced as the doors opened and men in dark suits stepped out. And then she saw him. Jihoon. Tall, sharp, dangerous. His presence filled the night like thunder waiting to break. Their eyes locked across the distance. Cynthia's heart betrayed her, leaping into her throat. Her father burst out of the house behind her.
No.
"Not again. I paid you. You promised." Jihoon's gaze didn't move from Cynthia. His voice was calm, steady. "I promised she could leave. I never promised she would stay away." Her father's face twisted with rage and fear. "She's my daughter." But Cynthia stepped forward, her voice clear and trembling with truth.
"No.
"I'm not yours to barter anymore." Her father froze. Jihoon's men shifted, hands on their weapons, waiting for his command. But Jihoon only stood still, his dark eyes on her, waiting, not forcing. For the first time, she realized, he wasn't pulling her. He was giving her the choice. Cynthia's breath shook. Behind her was the life she had always known, the safety, the family, the man she was meant to marry. But it was a lie, a life built on her father's bargains. Ahead of her was Jihoon, danger, fire, shadows. But also the man who had shown her desire, who had awakened her, who had made her feel alive. Slowly, her bare feet carried her forward. Her father shouted her name, but his voice grew smaller with each step. Jihoon's eyes softened as she approached, though his jaw remained hard. "Cynthia," he said low and steady. "This is not a game. If you come to me now, there is no turning back. My world will become yours." Her chest heaved, her voice trembling but certain. "Then let it be mine." A flicker passed across his face, relief, disbelief, hunger. And then he reached out, pulling her against him. Cynthia melted into his embrace, her heart racing, her body betraying her resolve. The street, the shouts, the past, all of it faded. There was only Jihoon, the storm she had chosen. The cars pulled away minutes later, carrying them into the night. Cynthia leaned against Jihoon's shoulder, the city lights blurring past. Her life, as she knew it, was over. But for the first time, it was hers.